We are officially recording this webinar. So we'll send it around afterwards. Hopefully there'll be some really useful content in it, and you're free to share it with your teams as well. We'll also share these slides. Just double check, make sure you're on mute. There is a chat going, so you can definitely drop in Q&A, drop in questions there, say hi to folks in the chat. We'll be monitoring it throughout the conversation. And then what we're going to do for an agenda, just to walk you through what is in store. We'll do a quick round of introductions so you know who we all are. Run through some of the survey results. You all were super helpful in filling out that survey we sent out yesterday. We have some really interesting data we're excited to share with you guys just about the state of the sector right now. And then we have 3 amazing women who are going to participate in a Q&A just about how things are going at their organizations. We've got Carol from San Diego Humane, Stephanie from Animal Humane New Mexico, and then Susan from the Anderson Animal Shelter. And they're going to be sharing their perspective and some experiences with you all. After that, we will open it up to a Q&A. So feel free to be dropping in questions throughout the conversation, but we'll reserve some time at the end to go ahead and answer as many as we can. We have about 45 minutes together. If there are still questions left over that we haven't gotten to at the end, we're down to stick around if you are. But we'll go ahead and record all of it if you have to hop off early. Cool. All right. So quick round of intros. If everyone could just make sure that y'all are muted when you join. Thank you. My name is Megan Perrette. I am the partnerships director here at FreeWill. I live in Austin, Texas, where working from home is pretty normal for me. And I have 3 dogs. Many of them you will hear throughout this conversation, and I apologize profusely in advance. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it. I am joined by 2 of my lovely colleagues, Virginia and Carrie, and I will let them say hi.
Hi everyone, this is Virginia with FreeWill. I am the Director of Partner Success here, so I've gotten to work with all 300 plus of our organizations, including a few familiar, friendly faces that I'm seeing on this call, which makes me really happy. I've been with FreeWill for about 3 years now, and I am calling in from New Bern, North Carolina, where I am used to working from home, like Megan, and I'm joined by my 2 coworkers, Buddy, the gigantic dog that you can see in the background, and Lulabelle, who is a smaller shepherd who is very politely staying in place right now. We'll see how long that lasts.
Hello, everyone. This is Carrie calling in from Massachusetts. I'm originally working out of our New York office, but am home with my family for the next few weeks. And you might see my dogs popping in. I think they're out on a walk right now, but I have 2 labs named Lulu and Tupelo. So we'll see if they make a guest appearance.
Awesome. And then we are joined by Carol, Stephanie, and Susan, and we will let them do a quick round of intros when we get to the roundtable discussion in just a minute. Before we do that, though, I wanted to walk through some of the survey results and just let you know that whatever you're feeling right now, you're probably not alone. It has been a crazy couple of weeks. You all have adapted so incredibly gracefully. We're really excited to be able to be supporting many of you all, and just want to let you know that you're not in this alone. About 64% of you all who are joining us reported feeling anxious, lonely, and isolated when working from home, which, yes, I think we all have those days. So it's important to know that you're not the only one feeling that. In terms of fundraising, most of you are still sending out fundraising solicitations. We have been talking a bit in our general FreeWill webinars about how to adapt those to really be sensitive to this moment in time and make sure that your donors feel like it's resonating with them. But 3/4 of you are still fundraising, which we'll talk a little bit more with our panelists about how they have been adapting their communications. Half of you have canceled upcoming events. The other half probably don't have events. That has been one of the biggest shifts for a lot of organizations, as well as changing your fostering and adoption systems. Many of you all are coming from organizations that are specifically shelters or rescues who are dealing with moving those processes online, or dealing with closing your shelter but still doing lots of fostering. 42% of you all have closed your facility for the time being. And I think the thing that really stood out to me from the survey results was that 92% of you are joining this call because you're looking for some guidance from your peers. And I think we're all in the same boat. This is a totally unprecedented moment. There are people who are doing really, really wonderful, brilliant things to take advantage of this time and to take care of your donors. And we just wanted to use this time and space to share best practices, let you know what's working, what isn't, and just open this up for a conversation. Here at FreeWill, we're all here to support whatever you all need, and we're excited to dive into this conversation more in depth. We will share, again, these slides afterwards, and we've got some more data to dive into. But what I really wanted to dig into was we asked in the survey if you all had been doing anything creative that you wanted to share with the group. Obviously, yes, you all have been. And so these are some of our favorite things that stood out. One of our organizations that deals with service dogs has been running a digital campaign called Fill Our Bowls. They need to raise money to feed their dogs because of issues with the supply chain. And they got a matching donor and they achieved their fundraising goal in under 48 hours, which is amazing. So having that really targeted, tangible goal is something that can be really valuable. So your donors know exactly where their dollars are going. One other organization did a photo contest. Everyone's stuck at home. Everyone's got all this time on their hands. Parents, especially with kids, are trying to figure out what the heck to do with them all day. Why not do something that's fun for everyone and also raises money for the organization? So you might feel hesitant about asking your donors to engage in something that takes up time, but in reality, most people are trying to figure out how to spend their days. I don't know about you guys, but I know on weekdays, I feel pretty okay because I have my work schedule, but on weekends, it just feels like hours of time that I don't know how to spend. So a photo contest is a great way to engage those donors. Bad drawings of pets, which I will admit I had never heard of until reading the survey. It originated with Barks. If you haven't looked up what this is, it's incredible. It is a fundraising campaign where you can get a terrible drawing of your animal, truly awful, in exchange for a donation to the shelter. I love this idea. I wish we could just dive into all of the terrible pictures that I found on the internet. I would recommend doing that on your own. Next, I loved this. It's not creative, goes back to best practices, just calling donors. Patrick, our co-CEO, has been talking a lot about this in our general webinars as well, but folks are at home, especially older donors who might be feeling really isolated right now, just reaching out to let them know that you appreciate their donations and that you're thinking of them and asking what we can do to support them in this time is really, really powerful and really meaningful. You probably have some staff members whose jobs have been adjusted in the last couple of weeks, maybe because facilities have been closed. You can take advantage of their free time at this moment and use it to really engage with your donors in a super personalized way. Last but not least, an organization is going to hold a virtual planned giving seminar. We have been seeing here at FreeWill and just in general, just skyrocketing traffic in folks who are thinking about being prepared. And thinking about making their will, taking care of it. Not only is it because people are concerned about being sick, but also because they're at home and again, need things to fill the day with. On FreeWill, it takes 20 minutes to make your estate plan. So sharing those resources with your donors as a way for them to take care of their families and causes they care about. This is a really, really good time to do that. So this organization is going to be focusing on pet guardianship, which is also a really valuable marketing aspect and something that I'm sure your donors would really appreciate. So those are just a handful of the ideas that we heard from you guys. It's really incredible how much you're improvising and just sort of overcoming this challenging time. To dig a little bit deeper into that, though, I'm really excited to pass over the baton to Virginia and to open up this conversation with our amazing panelists.
Thank you so much, Megan. I am so excited to get to kind of lead this conversation and learn from our incredible panelists. Megan, if I could ask you to unmute our panelists so that they can chime in, that would be fantastic. We are joined today by Carol from San Diego Humane Society, Stephanie from Animal Humane New Mexico, and Susan from Anderson Animal Shelter. It looks like those folks have been unmuted. Feel free to unmute yourselves also, panelists, if you want to go ahead and do that. I'll go through just in order of how it's written on the page. Carol, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, that would be fantastic.
Sure. So this is Carol Spahowski in San Diego, of course, and our team at San Diego Humane Society manages major giving, planned giving, and foundation giving. So it has been an interesting time, as I'm sure it is for all of you too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, Carol. Stephanie, are you able to chime in?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Hi. Yeah, Stephanie Miller. I'm with Animal Humane New Mexico in Albuquerque. We serve the entire state. And I'm the director of major gifts. And in that role, I oversee major gifts, special campaigns, and plan giving.
Phenomenal. Thanks so much, Stephanie. And Susan, would you be able to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Susan Lyons, and I'm Director of Planned and Major Giving at Anderson Animal Shelter, which is actually located in South Elgin, Illinois, maybe half an hour outside the city. I'm at home in St. Charles with my 3 doggies sitting here on the ground next to me. So I'm in charge of, all the planned giving, major gifts, foundations as well, and that's about it. So
Just major gifts, foundations, and
yes, yeah.
Well, thank you, all 3 of you, so much for being here. We are so grateful for your time amidst a very crazy time for everybody, and excited to learn a little bit more about how you all have been affected and learn together. So to kick this off, I would just love to hear from each of you, what has been the biggest change to your daily workflow? And maybe we can start with Carol.
I think, for our team, most of our team is really focused on engaging individual donors and relationships. So we have been really trying to figure out how to engage new people and continue to deepen relationships and move relationships forward without being able to see them. And that, I would say, besides feeling completely disconnected for the place that we haven't been to for weeks, I think that's our biggest change and our biggest challenge. I think, especially in animal welfare, are so privileged to have adorable and compelling things to show donors and prospects all the time. And we are having to find other ways to make those connections.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephanie, what has your experience been?
Well, as I'm sure everyone on this call can relate to, we've had to make adjustments in really every single aspect of what we do. Normally, this would not be a really heavy fundraising time of year for us. In spring and summer, it does tend to slow down. So I've certainly started thinking a lot about the fourth quarter of the year, and starting to look at what we might be able to do to I guess, mitigate what could be the ongoing impact. Normally, we would be engaged in some donor stewardship activities, like a planned giving luncheon we have every year, which we've canceled. I was talking to my boss yesterday about what to do for planned giving donors instead. And otherwise, making a lot of phone calls, like other people have mentioned, definitely getting a lot of people on the phone, and mostly not to make asks, but just people are definitely curious about how things are going here and how the animals have been doing. So they've really appreciated getting that kind of information from me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Absolutely. And Susan, what about you?
Well, you guys have kind of said exactly the same thing that's kind of happening with us. Although we have a couple more complications because we are in the middle of merging with a wildlife center, and we were just getting ready to kick off a capital campaign, and our gala was April 18th. So we are, everybo's doing their work. Our marketing person is redoing all the messaging, that has to do with all 3 of those things, activities that are occurring. The biggest change, is being home. We are an organization that we don't work from home, and my job is meeting with people, as you guys know that. So yeah, lots of changes, learning how to feel comfortable with Zoom.
Yep.
That's the only way to communicate now. Well, besides phone calls. And Yeah, I'm just looking at, I really have stopped a lot of the spring activities. I was going to have a Legacy Society event too, 2 weeks ago that ended up getting canceled. So I've really spent the last couple weeks calling people. I just feel like the other activities just have to sit because, adoption fees aren't coming in, programming fees aren't coming in, and that's half the revenue. And so we really got to go back to the community and really ask for their support.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, sounds like definitely the common theme there is lots of connection with the community, lots of phone calls, which makes perfect sense. And I'm sure your community is very glad to hear from you, and also some unique challenges to try to overcome. We'll get into a little bit more shortly about how you might be adjusting messaging and previously planned events. And then I'll pass it back to Megan to talk a little bit about some of the corresponding survey data we saw on this.
This is a highly scientific poll, as you can see with the emojis. This is just a recap of what you all shared in the survey about how you're feeling from working from home. As we mentioned, big theme is anxious, lonely, and isolated. So definitely the time to reach out to your team members and just make sure that you all are connecting through Zoom or through phone calls more regularly than not. It's actually been really interesting. We've been doing these roundtables for different sectors. And what I will say is that folks in the animal sector are a bit more eager and happy to be here than other organizations. So I think you guys are way more adaptable than some of the other sectors that we've been chatting with, and fewer angry people too, which really, that resonates with me considering what we know about you all. So everyone seems to be figuring this out as they go.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Megan. So it sounds like this is very top of mind for a lot of folks. Maybe we can start with Susan this time, since it sounds like this is extremely relevant for you. How are you all coping with canceled events and or changes to adoption and fostering procedures?
Well, starting with our April 18th gala, we have, we're going to do an online auction, and we're going to have an hour virtual event on the 18th. We're still working on how that is going to happen and what it's going to look like. You guys are probably all familiar with like a raise the paddle or a fund a need, and that usually brings in a lot of the money. So we're trying to figure out how to create that for that hour virtual event that we're having at 6 o'clock that night. Let's see, we do have we have a big festival in June that we have just postponed, and we're trying to, like you guys were talking about, maybe do it third or fourth quarter. Still working on that. We had an amazing weekend, the weekend before last. Our governor on 2 Thursdays ago, got on TV and said that we have this mandate of staying in. So we rallied everybody, the volunteers, the fosters, and got messaging out through Facebook, constant contact, email, that we wanted to empty the shelters. So we brought all of our animals from our 3 different centers to the main shelter. And the first day, I got an email from our CEO that said 30 got adopted, 70 went into fosters. We got 100 left to get rid of, and not get rid of, but find fosters for. So yeah, by the end of the day, on Saturday, all of our animals were in temporary fosters. And, we all feel good about that because we knew that they would stay longer in the shelter with this environment. So this feels, I'm sleeping better just knowing they're in homes. But we stopped all adoptions until we could figure out a safe way to do this directly through the fosters. And so we're working on that this week. We sent an email out to all those fosters. They've now had the animals for a couple weeks, and first question was, have you fallen in love yet? And are you ready to adopt? And then the second question was, we would like to open adoptions again, and how willing and, how much do you want to participate in helping us get this done? Because depending on the responses we get from them this week, we will have to create different avenues of getting that done. If there's families that say we do not want anybody near us, You know, it might be put the dog in the garage and our staff member will come get the dog out of the garage. You know, we're going to figure all that out, and hopefully by next week we'll be able to start finding forever homes for some of these guys. What else? I don't know. That's
a lot. I mean, you've covered a lot of ground there, and it sounds like you guys are really working around the clock to figure out new methods. Definitely speaking as a proud foster fail. Our newest puppy Lula was a foster, quote unquote, for 2 weeks, and 5 months later, here we are. So I'm betting you'll have a lot of happy new homes for those.
Well, and we were going to have a big celebration with this merger, but that we could not do. So we have been scrambling the last week and a half to create 2 videos, one for the wildlife, donors, and one for Anderson's donors that we could simultaneously put on our websites at the same time. And we got that done in the last few days. So along with, some constant contacts and posts about it. And of course it's on our website. So it wasn't exactly what we had planned for the celebration, but it's what we are doing.
Absolutely. Great. Stephanie, anything you want to add about how you all are dealing with it?
Yes, well, very similar experience. As I mentioned, we canceled our annual Planned Giving Luncheon in June. We've canceled a very small fun fundraiser we have every year for our feline lovers, Catter Day. Every summer we have a regional educational conference for animal welfare control officers, welfare officers, shelter employees. And at this point, the staff who run that are looking at how to possibly make that a completely virtual experience. And it's usually is in a hotel with keynote speakers and breakout sessions. So I'll probably get an update after this call on how that's going. Our biggest event of the year is in October. And it's a 5K walk run with food trucks and live music and vendors. Right now, the marketing department is proceeding with plans as though that they're assuming it is going to take place. They have had to stop soliciting for sponsorships, which is a big part of the revenue for that, because they just feel it's obviously not a good time to be asking businesses for sponsorships. So that's the impact in terms of events. And in terms of adoptions and fostering, yeah, we've had to close down our adoptions completely. It's been about 2.5 weeks. We moved about 80 pets into foster care. We normally never have adoptable pets in foster care. We did get a great response. We have a lot of, we already had a lot of foster families who came forward when we put out the call. And we're not expecting a lot of them to be failed fosters because they're all experienced fosters who have brought pets back, but a couple of them have been adopted. And we've recruited some new foster families. Our staff has definitely been asking, how can we restart adoptions and still comply with our governor's, social distancing and requests? And so again, maybe later today, twice a week, we have a conference call with the senior management team where we talk through conversations in these areas. And I'm sure they've been thinking about it. And yeah, normally for a dog to become adoptable, they come out of foster and they're back on our campus. So so that's where we are with that. And a big impact for us has been intakes. We normally transfer in pets from all over the state. It's a very rural state. A lot of these rural partners have very high euthanasia rates. They depend on us to bring their pets to Albuquerque. So we had to shut that down, and that's been tough. So that's where we're at.
Wow. Yeah, sounds like a lot to deal with. And Carol, what about you all in San Diego?
Well, let me start, since we're talking about adoptions, I'll start with what the organization is doing around adoptions, and then I'm going to switch to some of our fundraising pieces. But we have continued our adoptions process. We've moved, obviously we're doing fewer adoptions, and we have moved to a virtual adoptions process. And one of the main reasons that we've continued is that we are an open admission shelter. So the animals will keep coming in and we have to keep finding them homes. In particular, we have a kitten nursery and it's wildlife season, and we have a wildlife center that sees about 12,000 wild animals a year, and it's baby season, as many of you know. So much has to move forward just differently. So the virtual adoptions happen where, whether it's by virtual, video conference or by phone, a potential adopter makes an appointment with an adoptions counselor. They discuss what kind of animal they're looking for. They talk about an animal on the website they may be interested in. And then we arrange, if they're interested, to move forward through a foster to adopt agreement, where the adopter will pull up in front of the building once we've kind of done everything. We bring the animal to their vehicle, doing what we can to maintain distances, wearing the protective equipment, and they take that animal home, foster to adopt. And we're very clear that we recognize that not every animal will be the right fit. So if this is not the right fit for you, this pet, bring it back, no questions asked, no hard feelings. We'll know more about their behavior in a home. We have about 600 animals in our care right now, just companion side. And a little over 50% of them are in foster right now. So there's some more coordination with foster families too. So that's how we're handling that piece. On the fundraising side, we have a few events that we are essentially finding ways we're canceling the events right now, but finding ways to use that exact same opportunity to engage donors. So our big Walk for Animals is going to be in May. We've made that a virtual event. I heard somebody else say you have a planned Giving Legacy Society luncheon in June. So do we. It's canceled. So we figure we're going to save a lot of money not putting on that lunch. So we're going to spend some money developing a really cute mailer with really cute pictures that kind of acknowledges, like, I owe you to celebrate your legacy next summer, something that just bring these folks a smile, to let them know that we're thinking of them, and it's not just canceled, it's canceled, but we're here and we're thinking of you and you do so much. And so we want to make something a little nicer, something that maybe they would hold on to, that makes them feel good to receive and to still feel celebrated. So we're working on that concept right now. The other thing that the event that's changed is each summer we do a lecture series for our leadership donors. So any donor of 2,500 and plus, each year we do a series of 3 lectures each summer on different topics. And we are going to move that virtual for May and have our CEO do a virtual presentation on how the world of animal welfare is responding to this situation and how we think this pandemic might actually impact and change the animal welfare movement in the long term. So we'll be sending out that invitation and asking for questions in advance. And of course, there'll be a moderator. And then actually rolling that out, we'll do a second one for monthly donors and a third one for legacy donors. So a few of those things, that's some of our group activity. And then how we're adjusting for individual engagement is, like the other organization that said you've started calling at 100 plus, we are doing that as well, with a real emphasis on not just thanking people, but trying to do some qualifying in those calls. We rarely get to talk to people at that level and qualify at that level. So we're going to take this opportunity to do that. These are folks we can invite back if there's some indicators once people are seeing each other again. We've developed our team is developing a PowerPoint that we can use to kind of give a virtual tour for donors if we can get a virtual meeting with them, since we can't see them in person right now. And we are using, I don't know if any of you have the ThankView platform, but we're using that platform where we can ask our staff on campus, program leaders, our CEO, to take quick personalized videos for donors saying, we know you can't be here right now, but look, the kitten nursery is filling up. Look at this kitten, or whatever it might be, and we can send those out in a very personalized way. So those are just a few examples of what we're changing here. It is moving quickly.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like lots of kind of creative approaches. And also I love the through thread of everyone just kind of thinking of longevity and how can we look to the future, because this won't be forever. I do want to be a little bit mindful of time. The content that you guys are sharing is so helpful. I know that we're only scheduled till 45. Like Megan said, we're more than happy to stick around a little bit longer. I think that something people are really looking to hear about is how you all have been doing fundraising messaging as well, which we'll get to in just a moment. But I do want to share, Megan, do you want to go through the data really quickly from the survey also?
Yep, we asked you guys how many of you have had to cancel events. Over half of you have had to, but with alternate plans. So it definitely looks good that you guys are sort of adapting to this new reality. And then suspending adoptions and fosters. Obviously, not every organization that's on this call is a shelter or a rescue organization. We also have some zoos and awesome organizations like that. But most of the organizations who are offering fosters and adoptions, just like all three of you were just sharing, have had to alter the way that they proceed.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. So as I mentioned, I would love to toss this question to all three of you again, because I think messaging is something people are really, really interested to hear. And then we'll try to save a couple minutes for some more Q&A as well. So Stephanie, why don't we kick it off with you this time?
Sure. Well, we have adjusted our messaging in the sense that pretty much every communication now is addressing the situation. Two sides. One, how things are going here at the shelter, what adjustments we've made, what's going on, and then secondly, how people can help. And as has been suggested by FreeWill, and most of us are probably doing, is letting people know they can donate. They can go to our Amazon wish list. We've sent out special communications about how we need help with getting homemade masks for our staff who are here working. So we're saving our PPEs. So those have really been the focus. And then in terms of the also ramping up who qualifies for a thank you call from a donation and making a lot of calls, is opening up the conversation with, I'm happy to give you an update. I'm sure you have questions. I'm happy to answer them. So there's definitely more of a two-way dialogue than normal, I feel, as a result.
Awesome. Carol, what about you all in terms of your messaging?
Yeah, I think pretty similar response. All of our messaging is now acknowledging what's going on and what the situation is. We are trying to incorporate messaging that relays how important it is for people to give right now because of the uncertainty in the world and what that will mean long term for giving. Not that we want to get too much into that detail, but without giving a false sense of the expenses that the organization is facing because of COVID. So it's kind of a fine line, but everything is moving forward. We're just acknowledging the situation.
Absolutely. Awesome. And Susan, what about you? Oh, it looks like, Susan, you may be muted.
Yep, I did that because Smokey's over here barking like crazy. So I just gave him some treats. So yes, I mean, we're doing about exactly the same thing. It's sending out messaging through a multitude of ways to donors and the community, and really making sure they know exactly what we're doing for our staff, what we're doing for our animals, keeping them abreast of when we're going to start doing adoptions again. Yeah, it's all changed, but it's good. I'll tell you, I put together an emergency appeal that we send out in constant contact about 10 days ago. We've gotten over $100,000 in the last week, and I can't keep up with the phone calls because it really resonated. And we got the most interesting thing, which is a learning experience out of this, is some of the donations were people who haven't given in years. So it gave me the opportunity to find out, as I'm calling them and thanking them, what they've been doing the last couple of years, and then really letting them know what we're doing now. And lots of people that we did an article in the Daily Herald, pretty much the same verbiage that we put in the emergency appeal, and people that have never donated to us have donated large amounts, like $1,000, and I really had a lot of fun, talking to people on the phone this past week. have a whole bunch of new best friends. You know, I'm making lists as I'm talking to these people. If we're really connecting, could we possibly, you know, make plans to have coffee, you know, maybe in the fall when we are able to get together. So I'm making a list of all of those people that, you know, that I don't or haven't built relationships with. So the appeal was so well, you know, responded to that we're probably going to send something similar like that out again in the next couple weeks. You know, it'll be tweaked, but yeah, so.
Fantastic. Wow, it sounds like everyone is really doing a heroic job of continuing to build community, and it sounds like definitely all of your supporters are responding to that really positively, to it being able to, you know, hear from you, and maybe some of those folks who are feeling lonely and isolated. This is a really nice opportunity for connection. Thank you so much for everything that you all have shared about how you have been thinking about these rapidly changing times. I know we've been getting a few really insightful questions on the Q&A. So we want to open it up to what all of you are wondering, so we can all learn from our panelists' expertise. And I will hand it back over to Megan and Carrie to facilitate that.
Carrie, go for it.
Hello. Okay, so for the first question here, looking kind of beyond COVID-19 in the next few weeks, there was a comment about the changes we think animal welfare may experience beyond COVID-19. So what are some of these changes that the panelists think are going to happen just from their vantage point in the future, looking beyond COVID?
I'll start on that. You know, obviously this is a discussion that's happening in a lot of forums, and I think two of the projected opportunities that seem to resonate with my organization is, number one, in being able to see the portion of animals that we can get into foster care. I mean, we have hundreds of animals in foster care now, more than 300. It really, I think, is a lot of organizations are seeing success in that, and they're going to start to ask themselves, can more of the animal care process be moved off-site into foster homes? And if that's a long-term shift, what does that open up the organization to be able to provide its community for animals and pet families instead, right? So is it more community-based veterinary care, behavioral intervention services for, you know, people who might want to relinquish because of behavioral issues with their pets, things like that. So that's one of the main things. The other really big piece that I understand is getting some traction in our organization is, because of the limited admissions now, more and more shelters are saying that it is not a good time to admit healthy outdoor community cats, right? And of course, that's a movement that's happening in animal welfare anyway, to shift away from thinking that healthy community cats need to be brought into shelters. And could this be an opportunity? Could COVID-19 and the admissions limitations be an opportunity to make that movement in communities faster? So those are the two big things that I think are resonating here. And of course, there's a longer list, but I'll stop there.
Okay, great. And moving right along here, is anyone including the expectation of an increase in rescues in need of care within the actual messaging?
Yes, we've already started talking about how we anticipate there will probably be a surge of owner surrenders and stray intakes when the social distancing ends and people can start bringing pets in.
Great. And
I actually think that, you know, with all of us being at home, I've had so many people call and ask me, when are we going to start doing adoptions? Because, you know, I think they miss, or there's more desire to have an animal now because of, you know, the love and, you know, so I feel like there's going to be, I think it's going to be very busy when we open up. I think a lot of people are going to want to adopt. So that's an encouraging thing.
Okay, great. And then in terms of actual events and galas, someone mentioned that their major gala is scheduled for August, and they're meeting soon with their team to decide whether to take it online or with a possible smaller in-person component if circumstances allow. So she would just love your thoughts on making the decision, and if you guys are encountering any similar experiences.
Well, I was just gonna say, I already said about what we were doing for our April 18th event. We were just taking all of our auction items and we're actually gonna put them online for a whole week. So the event starts, it was supposed to be the 18th. So by this Saturday, we'll have them all online and we'll give them a week to look at them. And then we'll close the auction at 6 o'clock on the 18th and then have our virtual hour that I'm not sure how it all looks yet. So that's, what we're doing.
I can give you an example from another organization in our community. It's our local Feeding America Food Bank that I worked at for about 8 years and did development there, and I still support them. They have their big fundraising breakfast every April, and they raise anywhere from $250,000 to $400,000 at this breakfast. It's normally an hour, about 300 people, and they've announced that it's going to be virtual. It's going to be half an hour. They've asked me to be like a virtual table captain, and I've agreed. So I don't know. I was talking to somebody there. They're not sure exactly which platform they're using, but I'll be very curious to see how that goes. But they are moving forward with that.
So I wonder if they're asking them then to make breakfast, get dressed, make breakfast, and then get on the website? Is what yeah, you don't know yet.
I don't know. I heard I was going to, as a table captain, I'll be getting a communication soon about more detail about what this will actually look like.
It'd be nice if you could share it somehow with us once you hear that.
Yes, I'll ask them. So.
Okay.
Awesome. We are actually just about at time. So for those of you who need to hop off, it is quarter till. Just wanted to do a quick wrap up. Here at FreeWill, we have a whole host of amazing resources for you all, totally free. We've been doing webinars every week. Would definitely recommend joining if you have questions about how to adjust your messaging or what other organizations are doing. We also have some templates. Feel free to use those as you're thinking about doing solicitation right now, and some phone scripts as well. In the follow-up email, we'll send along this link so you all get access to it. And we just wanted to say thank you for joining us. We will be sending around a survey just to get some feedback, and if this is useful, could potentially do more of these in the future. Thank you so much to Carol and Susan and our panelists. Thank you for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. Stephanie, appreciate your time so much. If anyone has an animal that they would like to hold up and share with the camera, now would be a really great time to do it. I'm going to try and track down mine.
Here's my barker.
Adorable.
Birdie says thank you all for joining, and have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Look at him. He's so cute.
Look at all these faces.
Yeah.